Ground Tactical. I am your host, Derek, and today the topic of the video is actually going to be quite a short one and more of a public service announcement. And I'm going to skip the normal pleasantries of the subscribe and comment and all of that for today, because today the topic is actually going to be something that is newsworthy, something that is actually happening right now as we speak. But something that a lot of the major news outlets are not covering, and there could be a lot of different reasons for that. And I'm not going to go into like conspiracy theory or anything that borders on that. And again, excuse the noise because guard chat and door open and lots of stuff going on out there. So I'll go get right into it. So a few days ago, there was a group that is called Veterans on Patrol, and what this group does is they're there as like a community service organization. They help out vets that are in need, for instance, homeless vets or vets dealing with addiction, depression, things like that. They give them resources, tools, and help them get back on their feet and assimilate back into the world in a useful, functional, and healthy fashion. And where they go out is to places where you're going to find these homeless individuals. So sometimes they check underneath bridges in what's called a wash, which is kind of like an area where floodwaters will come through and is normally empty. Like big abandoned drains, things like that. And they were out on patrol. I say patrol. They were out doing their thing, looking for these individuals, and they came across what was a hidden camp. And they started doing some investigation, and they found out that it was actually a hidden human trafficking camp. They found a lot of signs of human trafficking, specifically child trafficking into like the slavery work. Everything from like boxes of hair dye so that they can change these kids' appearance. They found restraints around trees. They found a bunch of toys. They even found an underground holding cell that if you put a child into, they wouldn't be able to get back out without help from whoever's on the outside. And it was covered with a tarp that was about the same color as the ground, so you couldn't see it from the air. They actually only found this camp because there was a couple of solar power like collecting posts out there, and they thought that was kind of weird out here in kind of the middle of nowhere piece of property, and so they went to investigate, and that's what they found. Well, since then there's been a lot of developments with it. Local law enforcement, they brought out a cadaver dog, and they didn't find anything out there, but the reason they brought the cadaver dog is they found some evidence. The one that they're able to talk about, because they have quite a pile of evidence that they've collected between the civilians that are out there and law enforcement. But the one that they're talking about that really got the cadaver dogs out there was they found a knife with blood on it that was buried in one of these washes near the camp, amongst some other things. So right now there is they're definitely asking for people to come out and help if they can. The area that they have to search right now is about 300 acres in Arizona, and it's covered with a lot of thick brush. And so they're asking for all the help they can. They're not asking specifically for people that are armed. The guy that's organizing this, the guy who is in charge of Veterans on Patrol, specifically says if someone comes armed, he wants at least 5 people coming that are unarmed. People that are trained in search and rescue, and different things like that, bringing out drones, bringing out search dogs, different things like that, because they're trying to do an inch by inch survey of this entire property. And they've been continually getting tips of possible camps, like hidden camps elsewhere. There's some, I don't have a 100% understanding of the involvement from this particular company, but the company Cemex, they do a lot of like concrete and cement mixing and things like that. Apparently they're involved somehow, and also somehow like Mexican drug cartels are involved. But I'm not, don't quote me on this because I'm not entirely sure, but I think what they were saying is that Cemex is somehow involved in trying to hide or shelter this cartel boss currently. and there's some pretty I don't know, I guess you could say damning evidence that's connecting these human trafficking rings with the cartels and possibly CEMEX itself. So another thing that they were asking is that if you have a CEMEX plant in your location where you live, see if you can get a few people together and kind of search the area around that you can. Obviously, if it's going to be private property, you want to get permission from the property owners first, however that may be. But like for us here here where I live, there's a CEMEX plant right on the river, and there's a ton of places that people could be hidden on the river. But also there's some speculation that because a lot of these children and women that are most likely being trafficked are actually coming from illegal immigration, so they're being captured and sent off to these sex slave rings. There's some speculation that I know it's been in the news lately that the holding camps that they've been putting children into as they separate them from their families as they try to immigrate illegally, it's actually confirmed that a lot of those children have become unaccounted for and no one knows where they're at. And even government officials, like I believe it was an elected official who tried to get into one of these holding facilities, and he said that the windows and entrances were blacked out to where you could not see. They refused to let him in. They threatened him if he refused to leave. It's just kind of a weird situation. And there's some evidence that's pointing towards possibly these children that are disappearing or unaccounted for in these holding areas being tied to these human trafficking rings. So I'm going to pretty much end this video here, but what I'm going to tell you is that if you are capable of going and helping in Arizona, again, they're not looking for like armed militiamen. They're not looking for any kind of a standoff with the government. They're working with local police. They've invited federal government to come out and assist them. They've actually asked for it. They've contacted Border Patrol, and they're working with them so that as they do these searches, if they push people south, like if they push these individuals who are doing this, if they push them south towards the border and they try to cross, that they'll be prepared for to watch out for them. So they're not calling for like armed militiamen. They're not calling for anything aggression or looking to have any kind of standoffs, but they're asking for people who are trained in search and rescue, people with some kind of medical ability, and people with dogs and search equipment, drones, to come and help. And if you're in a position to be able to help, definitely I encourage you to do that, because this is a situation where this is not political. This has nothing to do with the right or the left. This has nothing to do with Republican, Democrat, liberal, or conservative. This has everything to do with the sanctity of life, innocent people being tortured and sold, and children being taken advantage of, bought and sold. This is bigger than political agendas. This is bigger than debates. This is bigger than petty differences in opinion. So if you can help in any capacity, definitely I do that. And any capacity could be going over to the VOP Veterans on Patrol Facebook page and sharing the information that they're putting out as they put it out. It could be spreading the word so that this information gets out to the media and they're able to disseminate this. But if you can help, because these women and children have no one else to help them at this time. So I'm going to go ahead and leave the video there. Again, thank you guys for your subscriptions and your support, and I hope to see you next time. And again, an unarmed man is a slave, and an armed man is a civilian. Have a good night.